going to be talking about podiatry practice websites and some best practices about how to optimize them to make sure that your patients and potential patients utilize it in a way that benefits both you, them, and your practice. So just a little background about myself, just so you know who I am. My name is Jim McDonald. I'm a Scholl College graduate. Went to Portland Kaiser for my residency surgical training. I practiced in Eugene, Oregon for 5 years, and then moved to Canada and practiced here for a while. I'm an APMA member. I'm the technology half of the podiatry practice mastery group with Don Pelto. I kind of build that website and kind of help him with the webinars there. I've spoken on practice management and marketing at Podiatry, the Midwest Podiatry Conference, the APPM Conference, Colorado, and some other state associations. So I do have this kind of mixed background of as far as online marketing and podiatry. So I got into utilizing digital marketing with the Canadian Olympic Track and Field team when I moved to Canada. And I also worked for the Canadian branch of Polar Heart Rate Monitors and GPS, where I was doing digital marketing and websites for them. So in 2019, after the Polar branch closed in Canada, I had a number of podiatry colleagues and classmates who were curious about how to build a website and what are Google ads and different aspects of digital marketing. So in 2019, I started Podiatry Growth, and that's what I do today, as I basically work directly with podiatrists and podiatry clinics to build websites, but also kind of build an overall successful online presence for their clinics. So that's a little bit about me, so you can see what my background is. Obviously today, it's really all about websites and your clinic website. I want to try to give you some real life pointers based on the examples that I received through the forum. So we'll be going through each of your websites for those of you who are on the call today, and just pointing out the good things, the bad things, and what either you or your current service provider can do to make it better. So we'll start by saying that websites used to work in a very specific way. If you look at the old version of the APMA website, or if you look at the Wild Foot and Ankle Institute website, it was very much all about just information. There was obviously ways to maybe connect and put a phone number on for clinics, but that was the way you just it's basically a brochure to potential patients or to your current patients to find information about you and your clinic. And to be honest, back then it wasn't very hard. We're talking the early 2000s for your clinic to rank very well locally in your area. So, that was not a big issue. It's only been over the last 5 or 10 years with the introduction of things like Google My Business and other types of online websites where now it's much more competitive to rank in your city and also to show up, in the top 3, or, having a website that does more than just kind of have a lot of information about your practice on the website, something that's more optimized to try to help patients see that you as a professional and see what you do for them, and then take the necessary actions to make it a point with your clinic and kind of doing that. So like I said, there's been a shift and a change. Now websites basically, it's how visible you are online, through Google and other search engines is really important. So having a website that's built to show up there, and that has to kind of be baked into the website. Obviously as well, you want to build trust with your website. Do you have examples of reviews? Is there a picture of you treating your ideal patient? Is there kind of logos or kind of things that build trust? Are you a member of ACFAS or APMA or your state local association that helps kind of build trust to show them that you are the expert by just glancing at your website? Also, websites can be more functional now. Instead of your front desk person have to be on a phone call and taking a credit card number from a patient, now your invoice can show a patient that they can pay online. So they're able to pay their bills or their copays 24/7 through your website. This also comes down to scheduling as well. There's obviously different ways as far as doing online scheduling, but one way is, whether it be a form or it ties directly into EMR, there's ways of making these efficiencies through your website, which will make it easier for the patient to schedule and easier for them to get onto your calendar in the ways you want to. Obviously, having control of your schedule and who you see and don't see, or what kind of conditions, is up to you. But there's ways with software in your website to kind of custom make that now. So we're talking about today about kind of your online foundation, and that's what I see as your website. There's obviously different other parts we're not going to cover today. Things like search and SEO and discovery. We're not going to go super in depth as far as, reputation or online reviews and things like that. We won't go into email marketing, but just know that your website is kind of that foundational piece of your entire online presence. It's kind of your home on the internet. And it's a really important thing to make sure that it captures the attention of your, helps your current patients, but also captures the attention of potential patients to your practice. So when we talk about your website, the first thing that we need to look at is like, what is the kind of first impression that your website makes? Because someone might search for you on Google and go directly to your website. And when they look at your website, what do they see? Is there signs of you treating someone? Is there imagery of you and your staff? Is it authentic? Is it a stock image? Do you have ways for them to interact with you? So that jump from Google to your website is really important, because if people don't spend a lot of time on your website, then Google won't want to send people there. So that's why it's important to have a really solid first impression when they come and they land on your website. As far as the overall kind of ownership of your website, like there's different platforms out there. There's Patient Pop, Facebook, Google My Business. It's important to know that certain types of websites don't always allow you to own the content or own the URL of your website. That's Patient Pop. You don't want to build your website somewhere where you don't have complete kind of control over the way it looks and the way patients interact with it. So that's important. And then there's the act that basically your website is kind of a central hub for all of your marketing, whether it's your emails, your blogs, everything should point back to your website so it's as valuable as possible. It's also to think about the kind of patient journey, right? You want to take someone from a stranger to becoming a loyal practice promoter. And the website is an important component of that, because they'll interact with it before and after an appointment with you. And having a kind of a strong consistency with the way that your online presence is really important. So there's kind of two approaches to websites. Like I talked about, the old way was the kind of set it and forget it kind of brochure website. And that's fine. You'll get a little bit of traffic from that. But it's not really the way things are moving currently with websites. Usually, if you want your website to kind of attract more patients and you want it to be more engaging and basically help prompt action with people, you really need to take a proactive approach with your website. And that's what we'll get into today. So I'll put it in the chat, but one thing you can do now is, if you'd like to, you can download a copy, or you can make a Google Docs copy of this website checklist. If you don't have a Google Docs account for some reason, feel free to email me after this and I can send you a PDF. But this is just an easy way for you to get a checklist, and you can kind of run through these things on your website. We'll be doing that today with the different websites which were submitted to me. But that's just a thing to be aware of whenever this checklist will kind of help you take a look at your website from the perspective of the patient or someone who's new to your site. Sometimes we're so close to our own clinic, our own practice, that we may not see things that others do. So you can download this. Like I said, if you need a PDF and you don't have Google for some reason, let me know. You can send me a message and I'll do that. Okay, well, let's get into the websites. Okay, so I appreciate you taking that time to kind of go over the basics with me, but now we're going to get into the websites. Since I see that Dr. Geldwert is here, I'm going to go ahead and grab your website right now, just take a look. Unknown host, whoever you are there, if you put your website into chat, I'm happy to do you next if you got a lot going on today. So just know that. So when we take a look at the initial website, right? So obviously the phone number is there at the top, which is a good thing. That on the desktop. There's also a link out to Facebook, here in the upper right-hand corner. When I take a look at that, I think, Facebook, it's good to have a link to Facebook on your website, but the one problem becomes is it almost looks like this can be a place where they exit from your website and go somewhere else and kind of get lost in Facebook's world. So I generally think it's a good idea to have social media icons on the homepage, but generally not at the top. And you'll see a little bit more when I get into the look of the mobile site. of the website is that, yeah, the phone number is still here, but this is, instead of having a contact me or a online form link, the Facebook is right here. I'm not trying to pick this apart. I think it's this is just a little thing, but it is important to note. Obviously, so this is the Gilbert Bunion Center. Obviously, a picture of a bunion here, so that obviously ties into the name of the center. Also, we got some stock images here. Like I mentioned previously, really one thing that can be huge for patients to kind of connect with you initially is, instead of your picture being down here, Dr. Gilbert, maybe it's up here and it's you treating someone that has a bunion. You and your surgical scrubs to really show that you are that kind of bunion surgery authority. So that's one thing to consider. Obviously, there's different ways to go about doing it, but that's just one thing off the top of my head that I would recommend. Also, when I noticed on mobile here, we'll go back real quick to mobile, is that I'm not sure how well the site is optimized for mobile. Right now the text looks pretty small to me here. I think that probably could be increased in size in order for different folks to see it a little more easily. We're noticing that more and more people are utilizing mobile to it's exceeding like desktop websites now. So the more it can be optimized for mobile and easier for people to interact with mobile, highly recommend maybe a little bit bigger of a font size for this website here. When we come down here, it's good. You got the hours of operation. Your forms are here. The contact us, and you do have one phone number here. One thing that you have to be a little bit careful of is that our clinic locations are obviously they're local businesses, and when Google crawls or examines a page, anytime there's two addresses on the same page, it can be kind of a confusing signal to Google as far as like, is this in Rye Brook or is this in New York, New York, right? So, while, Gilbert Bunion Center, it doesn't have two locations. And usually if you have two locations, you really want to have two location pages because what that will do is, let's see up here. You got the contact here, but I'm not seeing two location pages. So it would be helpful to whoever's made your website for them to, consider making two pages there. That would just help. And if you have a Google My Business listing for this, you should list the Google My Business listing to that specific location website in Rye Brook, New York. And that will have, kind of an impact as far as how well it's ranking in that Google Maps or on the Google page. One thing that sometimes can be beneficial as well is more kind of a local approach. And I know that obviously there's two locations here, but another way to get around this is what we call a areas we serve tab. By putting areas we serve, you can get maybe the 5 surrounding suburbs or the 5 surrounding locations where you also get patients that come to this Rye Brook, New York location. That's one way of kind of showing up in more search results, but also being very relevant since you are, I think, in the New York City area and, things are kind of close together. So that can be an important thing. When we look at, bunions again, so obviously a big picture of a runner. You want to try to make it as specific to the thing the page is about. So, obviously innovative bunion surgery. You got some pictures here of the pre-ops. I think that looks great. It helps really kind of show your expertise and show what you do with that procedure. But I think showing that up here would be better. And also, like I said, the local pages, if you're targeting New York City or if you're targeting Rye, New York, maybe putting that in the title there. So people are searching bunion surgery, New York City, or bunion surgery, I guess, Rye Brook, New York. It would show up more potentially in search if you do it that way. So that's kind of I would say kind of like my brief overview of that website. I definitely want to get to some other ones here, but hopefully that's helpful for you. Dr. Gilbert, did you have any questions? You want to pop them in the chat? I'm happy to answer specific questions about your website if you're here and you want to chat, or if you're on lunch and don't have access to the chat, that's not a big deal. Hopefully you found that to be helpful and give you some feedback about your website. So now we have a Keith, and then there's an unknown host. So if you guys want to drop a link to your clinic website, I'm happy to do you next. I'm sure you're busy and you got things going on. So if you want to drop your website link there in the chat box, you can do that. If not, I'm just going to go through the other ones that were submitted so you guys can also take a look and see different options as far as ways that people are doing their websites and my thoughts on those. Okay, well, just drop it, the link in there. If not, I'm going to go ahead and move over to Jersey Shore Podiatry. So first glance of Jersey Shore Podiatry, obviously they've got the request appointment up here, their office hours, the phone. I think it's good they have their logo here. Obviously their name is very prominent. And then you've got the name of the doctor here and his location. So like I talked about previously, these are local businesses. So the more, obviously up here, you can see that, let's see here. You can see here that you've got the name of their clinic here and what we call the title tag, which is an important component of it. But so we're looking at that. Sometimes these videos in the background will slow down the website. So it's important to be aware of that. Obviously, when I look at that video, it makes me think that Jersey Shore Podiatry wants to treat young and active people. And that could be the case. I don't know. I haven't looked closely enough here yet to determine that. But like I said previously, like I'd usually like to have social icons and even the review stuff down lower on the page, just so they don't leave and go somewhere else. Maybe making the phone number a little bit larger in font size and more in a color that stands out compared to the other text here to make sure that people are clicking and calling the clinic. Office hours is fine here, but I think you just really want to be clear about the call to actions you're trying to have potential patients take here. Obviously, there's a good amount of resources here so people can look up their conditions and other things. As we scroll kind of down the page, like I said, Jersey Shore Podiatry LLC, I don't know if in New Jersey they're required not to have the LLC there, but I would get rid of that and maybe just call it, it's good to have the city name higher up than even just the name of the practice, but that's something. Like I talked about previously, websites also are really about trying to show instead of tell your potential patients the type of people you want to see in the practice. So I assume, like I said, he's going for kind of a younger, healthier crowd. This doesn't rule out you taking care of everyone, but it helps speak to kind of your ideal client so they feel like you are the right choice for them to see. Your next, one thing I see on a lot of podiatry websites, and obviously it's our specialty and it's what you do, but really you want to show authentic pictures of yourself and of your staff and maybe of your office whenever possible. So while we talk about Dr. Poplawski here, an image of him and his staff right there would really speak volumes. I would maybe even put that up higher on the page just so folks can see him and see that he's a human being. There's something about human faces and smiles and that really engage, other people to consider your practice. So I would consider switching out, images of feet or stock images for, realistic images of yourself or, photos of you in your practice. It's not that expensive. You spend a few $100s on a photographer for a couple of hours and you have a lot of different images you can use on your website, on your Google My Business profile, in your marketing. It's a really good investment to get a good photographer to take images of you in your practice. So that's one takeaway I'd take away from this. He's pain-free non-surgical solutions. So it's looked like he's a non-surgical specialist. That's obviously something that sets him maybe apart from others. I don't know if he does surgery or he just wants to promote the non-surgical solutions, but instead of kind of being a podiatry clinic like none other, maybe that's a selling point. Maybe he wants to see patients that are only non-surgical candidates. So it's one way to differentiate from other podiatrists maybe in the local area. Then again, it talks about the different services he's providing here. Obviously calling the clinic, the button is, this text is clickable. Obviously it goes to a request appointment. The hours are here again with the map. That's all good. I like the position of, like I mentioned, the kind of the social media being down here, not necessarily at the top. So those are just some feedback from that website. Like I mentioned, this is a local business, so the more you can appeal to, if you're in the middle of New York City, it's going to be a little bit harder, to whether it's even worth making these kind of areas we serve pages. But for someone that does is in a kind of a suburban area or a location that has surrounding communities, making areas we serve pages where it's like, podiatrists serving adjacent town can make a big difference as far as where you show up on search and how that goes. Like I said, you just want to make sure that the call to actions, the phone number, and the request appointment is kind of visibly different than the rest of the text, because it'll appeal to, if this was surrounded by bright green, if these two are surrounded by bright green instead of just text like anything else, it's going to help patients take that, be visually prompted to kind of take action on the website. All right, so we're going to go to Dr. Cliff Wolf next. So this is wolfpodiatry.net. One thing that we'll notice here, let's see here. So he's in Oceanside, California, which is near San Diego. This is what I'm talking about. It can be hard to both rank, and if you're just outside of a big city, if you're not physically in that location, it can be difficult to rank unless you're making these kind of areas we serve pages. But experience and training you can trust. Okay. There probably could be a little improvement with the copywriting there. They can talk to their website provider, but you definitely want to, and obviously it has Oceanside here, but Oceanside, foot and ankle specialist, Oceanside's trusted podiatrist, some way to incorporate the words Oceanside and podiatrist kind of will send a signal to Google that that's who that person is, and probably be a little bit more, convey a little bit more trust and show up more in search. So obviously we're getting kind of into these, I don't know if these are real or stock images, but even if it's a movie, it doesn't really show the personality of the practice or kind of their ideal clinic. Yes, we are a foot and ankle specialists, but they probably came to this website already knowing that's kind of what you do. And now they want to see like how you're different than someone else. So this top part of the page is really an opportunity to having obviously there's a book online button up here and a phone number here, but really it's a chance for them to visually see and take action with this website. And there's not really a great opportunity to do that here in this kind of first part of the website. As far as the kind of the header and the title here, I don't know if the fax number is necessary. If you have a contact, maybe put the fax number on the contact page, but it just kind of makes the text really small and tough to see. There's a lot of different categories that could probably be consolidated here. It's good to have that information on your website. Sometimes it's how you organize the information that makes it more usable for patients and more beneficial and easier for them to find what they're looking for. But it's good. You do have a phone number here and the book online. So I think those are good things. Obviously here as well, I think the social stuff being on the side is a little bit better than having it be way up here. If someone glances and wants to go, they can go there, but it's not quite as clear of an exit sign as it is when they're sometimes here on the top of the page. Obviously having a link out to the kind of coronavirus, COVID-19 updates is an important component of that right now. Something I guess we didn't talk about the other previous two websites is you do have an opportunity to maybe put a small banner or a link to what your current policies are, what the things you're doing in order to mitigate the chance of transmission of COVID-19 can be a very beneficial thing. So there's different ways to kind of put that in a noticeable spot on your website and really help out your patients. Obviously here, like I mentioned on top here, there's also appears that he gives foot home care services as well. So like I mentioned previously, if you're looking for a way to distinguish who you are versus someone else, I don't know if he wants to grow that or this is a COVID-19 service that he's providing, but to make that front and center, it has to be more visible kind of on the page for that to happen. As we scroll down, he's kind of got the about, home, services, blog. I think those aren't bad, but like I said, you need to show a little bit of personality, whether it be photos of you and your staff, a a video of you introducing yourself and kind of describing kind of your the different services you provide that kind of maybe screens out some specific types of patients you don't want to see. If you want to see everything, that's great, but you still need to kind of explain who you are and what you do in a way. Obviously, there's more text here. It's pretty text heavy. Like we talked about previously, it can be helpful to include different types of elements of trust. This is kind of what I mean, for lack of better, it's kind of a generic badge. If this is the APMA logo, or if this is the ACFAS or your state association, it's going to carry a lot more weight, and it probably should be higher up on the page so people will see it sooner than later. Also, obviously, there's ways as far as embedding different types of testimonials or reviews onto a page. Usually a human face can be a nice way of doing it as well. There's different tools out there that will show that you have 200 reviews or 30 reviews, and making that visible to a patient can also help them realize that you are kind of a trusted expert. So those are things to consider when kind of starting this page. I'll take a look at one quick service. Let's see. So industrial shoe applications. So this is, I guess, a service he provides. I mean, when I look at it right now, it's a lot of text, which might help it kind of rank for keywords online. But really, like when someone comes to this, it's a lot to have to read. So inserting images or different size text and headers can help organize the content and make it easier for people that want to procure the service. Just by having a top level larger font can kind of help guide them through the this kind of service, as opposed to just kind of an endless amount of text, which, unless you're really dying for this service, I don't think a lot of people will read through. But I could be wrong. I think it's good to have these services there, but just something to be aware of. If you take a look at the mobile aspect of the website, pretty similar here. Like I said, maybe having some type of, schedule an appointment or request an appointment button up top could be helpful. Very similar. We got that big badge of, trying to build some trust there, the hours, contact form. So those are things, those are good things. I think one thing that I think maybe I didn't mention, I'll go back real quick. So this does also have this website did have an accessibility button, which I think is a nice feature. Depending on your state and the current rules and regulations, some of these buttons, will help people see things that have visual difficulties. There's different laws in different states. There's some question whether the American Disabilities Act applies to clinic websites. Definitely check with someone, an expert in that area, when you're having your website built out. But that's something to be aware of, is the accessibility. And I don't see that on this page. So that's something just to be aware of. Okay, so the next one we'll go to is, before I go to the next website, do you guys have any questions? I don't want to just be talking at you for an hour. We'll do another couple of these, and then I'll definitely open it up for additional questions and answers. But are there specific questions about the websites I reviewed so far, or websites in general that I can answer for you right now? Well, if you do have questions, go ahead and pop them in the chat. I'm just going to go on to the next one so you can take a look as far as how that goes. So the next one we have is Pasco Hernando foot and ankles. So we start at the top. Like I talked about previously, we've got two phone numbers here, 2 locations, and then a phone number over here. So it can be confusing to Google to know which area you want to rank in, or where you're trying to, what is the true phone number for this practice. It can be a difficult thing when you have a multi-center practice, but there are ways that Google kind of has a guidebook or lays out how to do that properly. And like I said, usually the best way is to make location pages for each of the different locations, and making sure that Google My Business profile is linked to each of them. That's something that could be worked on this page. They have the accessibility here on the right, which is great. Contact us and the phone number. It is visually distinctive in the overall header here. Obviously, there's the logo. So if you know the Pasco Hernando foot and ankle logo, which is good. Home, Dr. Kale services, that's nice little drop down there. If you want to go and look at each of the specific services they provide, insurance, office, news. As we come down, we've got those social buttons. It's a little there kind of in the middle of the page. I'm not a big fan, but lower on the page would make sense. And then we have a few different calls to actions here. We've got their kind of news about the coronavirus, request an appointment, and get a free newsletter. So at this point, if someone's never been to your website before, you're kind of asking them to do kind of three things at the same time. Trying to focus on one call to action here, makes probably the most sense. If there's a way to move, it's possible to move this up higher, putting it in the header as far as the news of the novel coronavirus, or putting it directly after the request for an appointment can be a beneficial thing. We just want to try to make it as simple for people as possible to make an appointment with you. But that's an important component of it. As we scroll down, it's good. They're letting people know that they're open in their Hudson Bayonet Point office. So I guess they're closed in the other one, which might be also important to pass along. They're doing telemedicine. A little note from the doctor. Once again, they're kind of getting into the, it's not the worst, but like these are stock images that don't necessarily speak to anybody. So, I see that he's got a video here introducing him and his practice, which I would probably put up much higher on the page. He's been in practice since 1979. These are all things that are building trust with a potential patient when they're looking at your website. So putting that higher up on the page, I think, could be a very beneficial thing. Maybe even putting that video over here instead of having this kind of stock image of a family could be more beneficial. Or, if he's doing ankle pain, diabetic foot care, all these things, having pictures of him treating those patients, or staff photos along there as well. We've got a little free informational brochure, a foot pain book to sign up for. That can be a way to get people onto your email list. And then we've got some more reviews here. Looks like he's got some kind of embed showing that, and he's got some recent reviews, February 13th of this year, February 12th, 5-star, 3-star, 5-star, 4.9 ratings, 262 reviews. So that's a sign of trust. If there's a way to kind of, make those 262 reviews more visible, it's a good way of, for people to kind of, whether it be a badge or some way to show that can be updated, might be a little bit more visually appealing than the current format, but I think still it's good to have those reviews there on the page. As we get into it now, here we get into a lot of text again. He talked about the services he provides higher up in the page. One thing I didn't get into the other websites, which is important to know, is that each page should kind of be structured around a specific type of keyword, or if you wanted to win the internet for a certain phrase, maybe it's Hudson podiatrist, Florida podiatrist, or Bayonet Point podiatrist. You want to make sure that page is centered around that. So the more information you give around hammer toes and other things that kind of dilute the message that you're kind of Hudson and Bayonet Point's podiatrist, it kind of confuses Google a little bit. So it seems like there's a lot of information here, which was probably covered somewhat in the section here. So I don't think it's really necessary to repeat all of those things. But there's different ways to kind of skin a cat, but that's kind of my approach. As far as getting in touch, like we talked about previously, he mentioned that only the Hudson and Bayonet location are open. It might be beneficial to say whether this is temporary or permanent. If it's a permanent thing, I would probably recommend getting rid of the of this, at least the phone number here, and explaining the situation that they're permanently moving. And also, like I said, at the top of the page, getting rid of that second phone number here, so Google is not confused as far as where you're
where your clinic is and kind of where they should show you. Like I said, there's always opportunities to make kind of what I call areas we serve pages for nearby communities, but you're always going to rank highest in the places where you have clinics. So that's kind of a look at that at Pasco, Hernando. Like I said, if you guys have questions, I'll keep rolling through. We've got 2 more to go. I guess we're getting close to like 12:35. I'll do 2 more. And then, like I said, feel free to ask questions. I want to make sure this is as valuable for you as possible. All right, so the next on tap is we have complete foot and ankle care of North Texas. Like I talked about here previously, now we've got a toll-free number and a regular local number. I guess if someone's on the call from here or the webinar, you can ask them, you can tell me why there needs to be 2 phone numbers. I guess with cell phones and the proliferation of things, unless you're really long distance, I don't see why the toll-free number is an added benefit. But anyways, that's just one quick thing. Obviously, it looks like they have a nail spa as well. Preferred rates for hotel, maybe they're getting patients from out of state. With COVID-19, I don't know if that's really something that's happening or they just have a good relationship with this hotel. Obviously, they have a patient portal, and then there's all the social media things. Above that, obviously, there's more information about their actual practice. It's not as visually engaging as the stuff down here. So unless, if you scroll by, I guess it does stay there. So it stays up there even when you scroll. But, I would try to make the things you want people to take action on be the more visually engaging things, whether it be a change in color or a graphic. If you're wanting patients to make an appointment, you're giving them a lot of different things to do here, which I think is great for returning patients who are familiar with you. But if someone's never been to your website before, it can be a bit overwhelming having that much choice. So we'll get into it now. Obviously, it's good to have information regarding COVID-19. That's the kind of a nice little spot where you can link to like a blog post or a page that describes exactly what you're offering. When it comes to sliders, once again, it's I don't see any pictures yet of the providers or their clinic staff or the clinic. I think I would just say get rid of the slider, go with one image of the practice, of the people in the practice, so they can be familiar with you and see you as the expert or seeing you treat kind of your ideal patient. The logo is here. It probably makes sense to have the logo up here so it's more visible the entire time instead of it kind of being in the background. Obviously, make an appointment is a good call to action, but it just keeps on sliding, which I'm not usually a big fan of the sliders. And as we scroll down, they have their services here. Like with the previous video, it looks like they do have a video, which is good. I would recommend a thumbnail or a screen image with the picture of the doctors or the staff. That's an easy thing to do. But and I think that should go higher up than the services you provide. Obviously, there's another request an appointment here. Looks like Dr. Dauphiné is on Advisory Cloud and has a book. So that's good to know. Obviously, a lot of text here. Looks like they're asking people for reviews, and then you can read about the reviews here. Looks like they have an embed. Looks like maybe Bird Eye or some type of provider there. So the last one was January 9th. So that's good to have. I mean, I like having it on the homepage, but that's better than not. Then they've got, I guess, featured articles from their blog, and then kind of testimonials down here at the bottom, and accessibility there as well. I think, with testimonials, I think you want to put that more front and center. Like I said, it builds trust along with, logos of, the different associations or the board certifications, anything that has a logo that's going to position you as the expert in the minds of your ideal client, I think is what you want to have up there. I think it's great that you show the services you have, but obviously if they've already come to your website, they probably know you provide different types of foot and ankle care services. And though you are a foot and ankle doctor, you want to really show what sets you apart from the competition in a way. So, that, like I said, I would simplify this header here so it's more actionable. And like I said, you want more social proof and to build more trust. And just kind of with less calls to action, more people are more likely to, make appointments or call to make an appointment with the clinic. Dr. Gelward has a question, so I'll address that now. As far as blogs for the website, really, when it comes to blogs, let's go back to your website here. Let's see if you got any blogs. Guess you don't have any blogs yet. I'm a bigger fan of, if it's a service you provide, having like a service page. Let's say, like you talked about, we went back to where it's like custom orthotics, right? Like the goal, when I look at this page, right, like the goal, I guess, for the custom orthotics page, should be kind of to like win the internet kind of in your local area. So if you have kind of the best page that shows images of custom orthotics, it's custom orthotics with Rybrook, New York, or custom orthotics, New York, Manhattan. You just really want to have a really engaging page that's going to, obviously talk about what it is, but also separates you from somebody else, or has, embed a video there can be of benefit as well, because the longer people stay on that page, like you have Google Analytics on your website, right? So Google knows how long people are staying on your custom orthotics page. So if someone's spending 5 or 10 minutes learning about orthotics from your page, when they type in custom orthotics Rybrook or custom orthotics New York City, you're gonna like show up higher in the rankings as time goes on when people are looking for those searches, because you're matching the searcher intent. When you match search intent and people are engaged and spending time on your page, Google wants to keep sending traffic that way, because it means that you're matching what those people want with, and that's the whole point of Google, is they want to match people with what they want. So like I said, having more built out, like kind of services pages, or these kind of, like I said, these areas we serve pages are probably better than just some thin random blog topics. I see blogs more for, maybe an introduction to a service page, like something news you can put onto your social media channels, or maybe you're involved. I think I saw you're part of the New York City Triathlon. So like, showing an image of you treating people in the tent with, obviously if they sign a waiver or something, Dr. Gelward worked at the 2022 New York City Triathlon, whenever we can go back to big live events again. But or there's showing some personality of your clinic. Maybe there's some event like you're volunteering at the American Diabetes Association walk in Manhattan, and your staff or you volunteer, showing ways that maybe it's a way to kind of highlight one of your partners. Maybe there's a physio clinic that you work well with, or an orthopedic group, or someone that you have a good relationship with, that you're doing some joint venture, or you want to give them some promotion, say. That's one way of using the blog. But I think if you have core services, I think you really want to try to win the internet with kind of more of a static page, as opposed to always be blogging about the services you provide on the blog, if that makes sense. Is that helpful? Cool. Do you have any, since I'm on your webpage right now, do you have any other questions? If not, I'll, if things come up, just type them in, but I'll just move on to the last one. I'm sure you're either on lunch, some of you guys are on lunch break, or you got other things to do, but we'll just go to this last one here. So this is Tri-Town Podiatry. I believe they're based in Arlington, Canton, and Chelsea, Massachusetts. And this is kind of what I talked about previously with needing to have specific pages for each location. There's no logo currently for this brand, which is not the biggest deal, but I mean, a brand or a logo will help kind of a brand kind of stick in the minds of someone. So I would recommend having something either through Fiverr or through some way as far as developing kind of a logo. I'm sure they have something, but it should go here in the upper left. They do have the book online and the call us here, which is good. You may want to, instead of the call us, it might be beneficial to like have call and the phone number, just in case the person only wants to call in. They don't have to dig deep into your website. So call, phone number, or just like, it can have like, the phone number, like the kind of emoji or the symbol for a phone, and then the phone number there. It can be a beneficial thing for returning people. So they've got some different categories here. Looks like obviously like stock imagery, unless they're treating 3-year-old soccer players. It kind of looks like my son there. It just, images of Tri-Town Podiatry and their podiatrists and their staff is going to really resonate more kind of with their local community than kind of stock imagery. I think, it's good to show, your ideal patients, but also you want to be seen as that local podiatrist that cares about their local community. So that's one little critique. I think the images are nice, but I think that's one thing to be aware of. Also with kind of Tri-Town Podiatry, while that is the brand name, not a lot of people are going to be typing that into Google. So it's really important to kind of localize it in the kind of what they call an H1 or an H1 tag. Means that like when this is like the main keyword that Google is going to find you for. So if it's like Tri-Town Podiatry serving, Arlington, Massachusetts, or Chelsea, is going to be help them show up better locally. Call us, book online. Those are good calls to action, but there probably should be a bit more there. Podiatric practice specializing in various podiatric specialties. So probably a little bit of work on the copywriting can be helpful. It's not the worst, but podiatric is not always a word that everyone we associate with podiatry because we're podiatrists, but foot and ankle specialist, foot specialist, foot surgeon. There's different ways to try to use words that maybe the lay person will use. Sometimes when we're so wrapped up in our own practice, it's easy to throw these terms around, but we want to make sure it's really approachable to potential patients or to our current patients. There's a little story here about Tri-Town Podiatry. I'm a visual person, so I want to see more imagery that's authentic, whether it's Dr. Wasserman or Dr. Blitz here on the side or them in the outside of their practice. That's a really important component, I think, when doing this. Obviously the services are here again, which is good to, distinguish, let's say sports injuries. So they got Tri-Town Podiatry, their foot and ankle specialist, local, so they've got this here in the book online, but, sports injury specialists, like you're not probably going to rank super well locally with kind of a website structure like that. It has to be a little bit more customized. Okay, choose your provider. So I guess we're meeting the team here. Dr. Wasserman, I'm obviously human faces. I'm a big fan. So whenever possible, getting Dr. Blitz and Dr. Taylor there is important. I don't know, I guess he doesn't do orthopedics, but I don't know, just understanding, do they see all the same types of patients? Is there a specialty? Is there something that separates them? Why I should choose Dr. Wasserman over Dr. Blitz over Dr. Taylor? Just making some differentiators can be helpful. Maybe to kind of like help show what you provide and kind of distinguish yourselves from each other could be a little helpful. Like talked about previously here, having 3 locations on the same page can be kind of confusing to Google. Should it rank highest in Arlington or Canton or Chelsea? It all being on one page sends kind of mixed messages to Google as far as where to do it. And this is a Patient Pop website. I'm not here to bag on Patient Pop, but unless people that have signed up with Patient Pop, unless they have been able to change the regular contract, then this clinic does not own this website and may not own their Tri-Town Podiatry domain name because in the terms of service with Patient Pop, unless it's been changed or customized, they own the website and all the content on it. So if you ever want to leave Patient Pop, either you make a carbon copy of all the content on your website and have someone else build you a new one, or you have to talk with them and negotiate to actually own your website. So that's it. I mean, I think, I said like more imagery would be good. Trying to make it be a little bit more localized with some locations pages can be a helpful thing, just to kind of have it speak more to their ideal patients. But I guess we're closing on 12:50. I do appreciate your guys' time and patience in being with me here today. If you do have specific questions for me, let me know. I hope this has been a valuable experience for you as far as kind of learning some basics as far as, what helps, optimize a website to make sure that, patients are taking action as doing that. So, I mean, like I said, I gave you that link as far as in the chat for the checklist. You can do a checklist of your own website. Maybe figure out what the 3 things that you want to do to improve your website, and kind of make a list of those 3. If you have any questions or concerns, like I said, beyond what I went over today, if you have questions about Google rankings or Google Ads, or you just wanted some general information, just type in "Let's talk" in the comments, and I'd be happy to kind of find a time that works well for you. Me being a podiatrist, I come from this from a little bit different angle than most different website providers or marketing agencies. So I'm happy just to schedule like a 30-minute or a 60-minute kind of free strategy session to kind of go over with you guys as far as I'll review your website. I'll take a look at, what's working, what's not working with the website, Google Ads, your Google My Business, your email marketing, and just kind of give you a rundown as far as like how I see what are the successful practices that I work, what do they do, and how can some of that be transferred over to your website? So, or to your website or to your online presence. So if you feel like it's a good fit, I'd be happy to help and consider having you be a client. But if it's, this is a this is not a sales pitch. This is obviously just 30 to 60 minutes of us chatting about your website, and whatever information you glean from it, you're welcome to take to your current website provider in order to make sure that you're connecting with your patients and you're providing a website which is actionable and really helps your practice grow and thrive. So like I said, we'll talk about an online visibility. I'll provide you like a custom keyword list. I'll show you some local rankings so you can see where you rank versus your competitors. Also look at your online reviews. It's just good to see what other people are doing, and are you, responding to reviews, your reputation. And then I'll talk about just kind of overall kind of conversion, or how do people go from being a website visitor to becoming a practice promoter. So if you go to podiatrygrowth.com/session, you can schedule that with the time with me that works for you. Thank you so much for attending. And like I said, if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, jim@podiatrygrowth.com, or you can schedule a practice growth session, podiatrygrowth.com/session. Have a great day. Bye now.